You guys ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'm kind of nervous.
I'm excited.
Whew, I'm excited too. All right, ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Come on now. We went over this.
I thought we already did.
I thought we already did it.
We're good. Chris can hear us. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the BCPC. This is episode 4. And we have with us our good friend Melissa Greer, who works with us at Berkshire Hathaway. And I mean, she just kicks ass, so I'm excited for her to be here.
Well, I'm so excited to be here and take a break from kicking ass.
Yeah, just take us a little
You
time out.
got to stay sane.
That's
Trust
right.
me.
That's right.
Well, that's an interesting segue comment into a subject matter, like sort of brainstorming earlier about topics. Taking a break from kicking ass in real estate. What's the secret life of a top producer? I mean, technically, we're all top producers, but Melissa's been one for a lot longer and a lot higher level. We'll talk more about that later, but secret life of a top producer in real estate. Well, what's behind the curtain?
Well, nothing fun or exciting. Just a lot of work.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's the thing is my biggest struggle. And I mean, I'm really working on it this year. My New Year's resolution was to make my personal life as successful as my professional life. And that when you get to a point where that's your hard. New Year's resolution, that's really hard because I've sacrificed a lot to build this career, and it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy. And, at the end of the day, you've got to really, I think at the time it was fine, but now, looking back, I'm ready to travel and do some things. But I've also developed habits of just working all the time. Plus, I built a business where, it takes a lot of work to keep it. So, yeah, I think the biggest challenge of life is having that work-life balance.
I think it's interesting you bring that up. I've been finding myself saying it recently to team members on our team, or just other people we come across is your real estate business, or even if you're not in real estate, if you're just in business for yourself, or even your career, if
running
you're not.
your own business specifically.
But even if you're not, if you're just taking your vocational life seriously, it still rests on top of different aspects of your personal or private life. Everything is built on something else that's more foundational is terms of your life. And it's just interesting that you say, I want to make my personal life as successful as my professional life, because in a way, I think that sort of lends into that wisdom that, man, if I want to be successful here, or I want to enjoy stability and success professionally, I'm going to have to be a certain kind of person, and that certain kind of person is going to also have a certain kind of life foundation. And I'm not going to be bringing my best. I mean, I don't know, like you've done this enough to where I think at some point you have to decide, am I doing this more for me, or am I doing this more for other people?
And it's usually both.
Yeah, it's always going to be both.
I would think it would be both. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of empathy, so to help people find a home and help navigate that journey with them. That means a lot to me. That's why I do it. I don't do it for the money. I tell people all the time, I'm a people pleaser. So if I can help people with the most important thing most of them buy, or selling that it's so significant because it's your home, that's important to me. But on the flip side, my own home's important to me. My dog's important to me. I wish I had kids. I don't, but if I had them, they'd be important to me too. It's kind of like as I've been in this business longer, I notice more what I've sacrificed to be in it. And then you start to really think, I've got to get this work-life balance. I mean, I need to get that under control because, there are things I want to do. And, funny thing, last week I took 2 of my best friends to the airport, and they were going to Spain, okay? I'm dropping them at the airport in between appointments and thinking, I just hate y'all. I don't.
I know you want to be going to Spain with them.
I don't want to be dropping. I don't want to be the Uber to the airport. I want to be on the plane.
With them.
On the plane.
And then it's so funny because I was home. No, I wasn't home. I was in continuing ed, as we all know. Not everybody knows this, but it's the worst. And
I have to do it tomorrow and Wednesday.
Do you see? I love that because people always
last minute.
People always tell me I'm like they called me because they saw I hadn't taken one class, and Scott called me and I said, you know what? I've been working so much. If I have an afternoon off, I'm not doing it. Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely wait every year. It's never going to change.
I hate that I've been talking about CE for 8 months.
Well, hold on.
We wrote it on the board.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You
every year I say, I'm just going to go do it first when it starts.
Yeah, it never
and then
happens.
every year it is June before I even start.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
But
The deadline for people's reference is what, June 10th?
I think.
So we don't even know
June
when our
10th.
deadline
It's
is.
I'm
this
taking
week.
it. I'm
It's
taking
this
it the
week.
6th and the 7th, and that's
And then
like
you start
a
to worry,
trend.
what if I get in a car wreck and can't make it there? Or what? It's really terrible.
Jamie, can you dress up as me?
Well,
Jamie is Melissa's
exactly.
assistant.
Well,
Jamie,
they
can you
have a
dress up
plan.
as me and just take my class?
Yeah.
Nigel,
Yeah, they could.
Chris, somebody help.
They have a pathway for you to get your license where it needs to be if you forget. It's
They
just
do.
a little bit more robust. You have to do extra.
I have a question. Do you ever, like, talking about work-life balance, I find that it's hard for people, like, to not feel guilty because you're like, oh, like, I've met so many great people in this business and I feel like I haven't touched them or, hung out with them in a while. Like, do you ever feel the pressure of, like, trying to keep up with everybody because
Like
you've made
maintaining
so
relationships
many
that matter to you?
relationships?
all the time.
I do too.
All the time. And but what's sad is that you don't get to spend the time with the people you want to because we're working
Yeah.
so much. But yet there's so many people that I love that I wish I could see more.
Yep.
And so you end up just when you can't sleep at night, which I don't know many realtors that sleep at night, but I don't.
Not
is
so
you're,
great
you're
over
watching
here.
their social media and you're liking their stuff and commenting.
Yep.
And
I
that's how
sleep
you
pretty
touch
well.
them and stay in contact.
It's true.
And, that's the only reason I think, thank goodness for social media a little bit. But no, I really do. There's so many things. Like even your family, you don't get to spend as much time with. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is.
I think that's the big thing.
I mean,
for
we
me.
bring work with us on vacation. Like, we set boundaries and we try to proactively plan as great, like, the best that we can. Like, prepare the whole team. Like, we're going to be out of town. We need y'all to help, like, take some of the work off our shoulders. But still, like, you can't just go, like, ghost everybody for days at a time. You have to, like, somewhat work a little bit, even on vacation, it seems like.
Maybe we'll talk about it with Drew and Kristen on another episode about just small business ownership. But that is a sort of a unique challenge to people who are, the owner of the business or the person who runs the show or whatever. You don't really get to put in for PTO, and everyone just respect. Oh, they're off. It's like it's a little bit more difficult than that, and you have to build that into your system, your capacity to take time away.
Well, and I love when people like say, "Oh, well, yeah, you can just get it." Yeah, okay. You can do it.
I will say, though, I have a coach. She's my nutrition coach, but she coaches in other ways, too.
She's become your real estate coach too.
Basically,
Hey,
I'm like,
no.
hey, I need help in I need help in other areas.
Tactics
And
great.
she's like, sometimes I think we think people need us more than they actually do. Like, in our heads, like, we convince ourselves that these people can't go like 24 hours or 48 hours without hearing from us. And I'll admit, like, I've gotten better. Like, I can go to, I don't feel as much guilt. I try to put things in perspective. Like, people are going to survive without me. I'm not going to leave them hanging on something super important. But if it's not an emergency, I've gotten better at being like, hey, can't answer this
Do you
right
think
now.
that modern technology has made it harder for us to kind of distinguish between where boundaries should be? Because it's very easy to just shoot a text, and a client doesn't know that at 10:30 at night, if they're thinking about it and they shoot us a text, that may kind of even make us feel, it's not like it could be any number of things that put that transaction or client or circumstance on our mind. If we see that at 10:30 and we know they need something, that's why we don't sleep. It's not because we're that anxious about things. It's that, well, now we know.
You just dropped a bomb on me at 10:30 at night.
But people do that. Well, I mean,
But
think about
do you ever try not to look at your phone at 10:30
Yes.
at night? Have you ever been able to do it? I can't do it.
I mean, I don't know if I should. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm kind of in the middle. Like, sometimes I can just do not disturb just after 9, but I don't know.
God.
Sometimes I like to, like, scroll through Pinterest and, like, for different things. And,
Or look at your watch.
yeah, no, I've been meaning to call this person back, but I just haven't had a chance to. So here I am.
I think, okay, this is a good opportunity for me to just rant for a minute about modern times. This has nothing to do with my real estate business
Now, I've
because
been watching Outlander, and that's in the way back in the... But yeah, let's rant about the modern times.
Don't go too hard on the rant.
No, I think everyone can sympathize with this. is, this idea that we need to be available. Like just people who used to not have that much communication activity. Like we used to have one phone for everyone in a household that also had social rules attached to it.
Unless you were cool like me and my sister.
Oh, you
we
had a phone in your own room?
Separate phone line.
Did you have a Clear phone, that would light up? And it was like,
we had one of those.
We
Like
had
Clarissa.
we had a children's phone in our house.
You
all
did?
day.
Oh.
Yeah, because there were 5 of us. So yeah.
Oh,
and my
okay.
mother was a realtor. So yeah, we had our own
you
line.
definitely had to. That's right. Yeah, y'all's phone, y'all's house. Whew. I bet
Yeah.
that ring was off the hook.
Well, we're part of the generation that went from one phone in the house to everyone has a phone on there with them. But then there's this expectation that comes with it, especially for people who aren't necessarily, maybe I feel like I'm overloaded with communication, not just from my clients or people like that. That's not, that sounds like such a pathetic complaint. Oh, my clients bother me. Well, at least you have plenty. You know what I'm saying? I'm thankful for that, But then beyond that, there's all these other messages that inundate you throughout the day. There's all these other people, and there's a lot of people who want, this is what,
Potential spam.
I'll take a detour off of my complaint. Modern culture kind of sucks, but going, it kind of does.
That's what sums it up, I guess.
God, way to be negative
Brandon's
over here.
Brandon's opinion.
We're going to need you to, put a little sugar on this.
Well, here's the sugar for customers and clients in real estate. Sometimes, and I know that you probably noticed this, you realize that you're a limited resource and you want to conserve your energy and the value you have to deliver people. You want to conserve it for the people who are contracted and have a contractual right to that time and energy from you.
I've never learned how to do that.
I'm right. Well, I haven't either, but I think it's difficult.
We're trying to learn, I guess.
Well, it's for real. Like if I stay that engaged with my communication all day long, and I'm talking to a bunch of people who aren't necessarily advancing my business or my clients' listings or the buyer process, if I'm just kind of serving random people that may or may not be working with me, and then 5 o'clock comes and I get an important phone call from an $800,000 listing client, for example.
But you're tired.
But I'm tired, and I'm, it's like, that's not a good person to bring to that conversation. And not that price points matter different, but it does to a degree. There's more liability. There's different. It's just, people in the business would understand that. I've thought about that personally. It's like, man, I do need to get to a degree under control. How I engage people, what conversations I choose to let interrupt my day, and which conversations are going to be on ice. And,
It's really hard too, because I think that people who are in our industry and do what we do, it's naturally you're helping people. And so you don't necessarily distinguish between I'm going to help the people where I know I'm going to make money, or I'm going to help people where I might be sowing seeds and make money in the future.
It's not even that direct.
And it's so hard. But I understand what you're saying, because, I had a situation where I sold these people a house 20-some years ago, and that now they're going through a separation or whatever. The husband called me, and the wife called another agent who's with our office. And
that's a good thing.
Well, so then we sort of got in this situation. And it has been dramatic, but we got in this situation where we finally said, let's just see if they'll let us both do it. You know, so the other agent said, I'm sure that'll work out just fine. I said, well, run it by your person. And she did, and she left me a message Saturday. She goes, I don't want to ruin your weekend, so I'm going to call you Monday. And she said, and then the lady just put the smack down on it and said, no, I'm not dealing with her. She sold us this house. I don't want to deal with anybody we have a history with, or whatever. And so
just cut
That's
all
understandable.
ties.
And so
That's
then
understandable.
A real divorce.
So the times that I've talked to the husband and the other agent in the past 2 weeks, I could have sold 5 million houses. And so that's what I'm saying.
I could have sold 2 maybe.
I know.
That might have been a slight exaggeration, but
Probably
I like
not.
to talk that way, because then it automatically puts you in the mode to do
No,
it.
we get the perspective.
But no, I'm just sitting here and I thought, and he just kept calling me today, and finally I said, look, I'm not gonna work with y'all. You don't have to worry about negotiating with your attorney. I just need to focus on people who want to work with me. That's just one. But it took me 6 phone calls, and I'm still. But I still said, if you need my advice, call me, because I just can't cut the cord. There's something about it that I just can't just say no, even though nobody wants to work with me except for you. And it's not going to happen legally.
Yeah.
I still, and I don't know what that is. I really don't. I wish I could.
I think it's what do you think about that?
Real estate is everybody at this table's baby in a way. You know, like we don't have kids yet either.
All right.
And it's like,
so everyone at this table, something that's been on my mind.
We all like severely care about it and care about our reputation, and we don't want to upset anybody. And it sounds like you kind of had to like let this dude down, but really it wasn't you, but you still want to be there.
Yeah.
But it's a tough spot.
I think there's a lot of things that go into
I've been
it.
through a lot of tough spots the past few days, man. I mean, I feel like I need to be in Spain right now.
You do need to be in Spain.
So get this. I dropped my friends off. This is a great story. I'm in continuing ed with 8 other losers like myself that hadn't taken it yet. No offense.
No, I'm a loser.
And so
in
we're
there.
sitting there on a Saturday, a beautiful Saturday afternoon in this continuing ed. And they start sending me pictures, my friends do, and they've run into my high school boyfriend over in Spain, and they're hanging out with them.
What?
Isn't
That's
that crazy?
so random.
And I'm just like, I can't believe, I'm not going to tell them where I am because that would make me feel so horrible.
You're like, it should have been me.
Hey, there are pictures of them overlooking the Mediterranean, and
What
I'm
the
sitting
heck?
there in this horrible classroom, just like,
And they're all having a good time.
They are.
You know what?
If it makes you feel better, our most recent vacation, we went to the beach, and it was like to the Outer Banks, and the nor'easter winds came in, and it was like cold. It just was awful. I got a speeding ticket on the way home. Haven't had one of those in years.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It was a great way to
It was
end the
like
trip.
it was like yesterday here.
Y'all, we got to sugar this up some. Let's talk about something.
All right. No,
I know. Are we all dismal? Come on.
I know.
No.
Let's all talk about
You
one
had a
good
bad
thing.
weekend. We had a bad vacation. Okay.
Let's talk about something that, is a little bit more tied to the context of this particular podcast. BCPC, Brandon and Claire, Melissa Greer is a guest. Let's talk about our
Do
origins.
you think it should be BC? What is it? What'd you say? BC.
The BCPC.
BCMGPC?
There you go.
The BCPC with MG.
It should be this episode.
Featuring
The
MG.
BCPC.
Yeah, it's
with
like
MG.
yeah.
Not to rebrand or anything.
No, we know that Melissa's is unscripted if you want to tune in.
Yeah,
Which I like
Melissa
that
has her
name.
own podcast,
Yeah.
and it's far more.
It's not quite as
prolific.
entertaining as this one, but
Well, I don't
Give
know.
it a
We've been
shot.
pretty
Figure it
negative.
Well, let's talk
got-
about
we
some
got
entertaining
sweet back.
things. Let's
Yeah.
talk about origin stories. Because,
Origin stories.
yeah, okay, 2014-15 is when we came to the firm. And that's when we met Melissa.
I remember meeting Melissa. I was terrified
You
to
did?
talk to
Well,
Melissa.
tell me about the first time you met her, because she was a top producer then already at the top, but
Well,
not
like
where she
even
is
when
now.
I first came into the office, I was like, I didn't have my confidence built up yet. I didn't know anything about buying and selling houses, so I was nobody.
Yes, technically. I
And
mean, literally.
You
were
know,
nobody.
I'd heard about Melissa. She was like the queen, and not in like a. But
I think of
you
that. I think I'm misjudged. I think I'm
not the
misjudged.
queen as in like the way you are, but just like you've been number one. You've maintained number one
Status.
units and sales.
Well, there's times when I haven't.
Well, whatever.
It's okay.
If we had
We
to
give it a shot.
overall, either way. So I just remember just being terrified to talk to you. But then when I did, I was like, gosh, she's so cool. No wonder she crushes it. Like, you're just so easygoing and easy to talk to, and
Well,
you
you're
keep it
sweet.
real.
Some days are better than others on that, but
Well,
I
I'm
will say
sure.
this: number 2's better than number 1.
Well, yeah.
Strive for
you don't
number
have to
2.
maintain.
Because you look good, but there's still a little nugget extra, and you ain't
Yeah.
trying to defend a throne necessarily.
Yeah.
But
Just kind
Wanted to
of you're
defend
just
the
hanging out.
throne.
It's not as much pressure.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure to be number one.
No, but see, when y'all started in real estate, I'm just curious. When I started, I didn't sell a house for 6 months. How long did it take y'all?
that's what
6
we talked about in
months.
our first episode.
It
6
took me
months.
6 months.
My
Yeah.
first listing. Okay, this is good. My first listing was a year and some change into the business.
Listings are hard though.
Yeah, that's
I didn't
different.
I had been in business a year too, and this is a great story. I was driving on Easter Sunday, and it was kind of rainy, and I was going to get my first listing, and I took this curve, and it was out on Hagenstone Park Road, and I flipped my Honda Civic, and it was like Easter Sunday morning.
On your way to your first
It was
You
listing.
and your
almost-
Sundays. You
I
got to
know.
take Sundays
I gotta
off
take-
now.
I gotta do
Talk about
something.
challenges to
Man.
launching your real estate career. I literally totaled my vehicle on my way to my first listing
I
appointment.
know.
God
And the worst
bless.
part of it is I had this really cool Honda Civic, and when my mother, when I totaled it, which I did, and I think that we had used a student loan to get it, and I had to pay on that student loan for like 15 years, and that car was totaled immediately, and I had to get a Pontiac Sunbird. I'll never forget it because my mother felt like that was safer. And I hated that car so much. It was just, can you imagine? There's nothing cool about a Pontiac Sunbird. And I'm like, oh, God, what in the world am I going to do?
Pontiac Sunbird.
It wasn't even white. You know, I like white cars, but this one was kind of a beige. It was really I'm like, wow.
Wasn't even all white.
I kept. So when I first started selling more houses, I asked my mother, I said, can I get rid of this Pontiac?
Yeah.
She goes, as long as you can do it. And so I traded it for I got a Honda Accord that time, and I was careful with it. I put a moonroof in it. It was really cool.
A moonroof.
Mm-hmm. It didn't have a sunroof, but I put a moonroof in it.
I passed my first car, my Mazda 6, down to Brandon as a hand-me-down.
Nice.
I was happy to drive that, you know? I mean, I didn't... It did kind of bother me for a while. I was like, man, real estate agents just have a reputation for driving nice vehicles.
Well, you know what they say. They're driving nice cars with bald tires. That's the thing.
Bald tires for sure.
Rolling on the road. If you're busy, I mean...
Or if you just can't afford any tires. But you had to spend it all on the car.
And also, we're not salaried, so, I mean, it ebbs and flows. One year you might have nice tires, but then you might wear them suckers out for like as long as you can go.
Maybe. That's intense. So how did that listing, what happened to that client? Did they choose you to list the house?
Yeah. Well, I had sold them a house, so they did list with me. And, you know, I did get that listing. But
So it was worth it.
Did you crawl out of your car and still get there?
Well, I think
She's dedicated.
I think, fortunately, I was coming back, so I think I hit it on the way back. So, yeah, I went to some farmhouse, and I guess I was bleeding and knocked on the door, and I could only remember, speaking of landlines, I could only remember my landline number to call.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember anybody's number. So I called my landline, my roommate answered the phone and called my brother, and he came in. He drove the car to the dealership.
Which one? Was it Waving?
Yeah, it was Waving. He came and drove it.
What's it like having an entire family in real estate? Because none of our family members
Oh,
sell.
wow. I mean, well, so, you know, it's just as much good as it is bad, you know, because the good part is, you know, you can, you know, you have a lot of built-in mentors. You know, I'm the youngest,
Yeah.
so, I mean, everything I know how to do, I've kind of learned from someone in my family or, you know, any other agent I've watched or learned from. But then the bad is that you don't ever get away from it. It's kind of like, I don't know how y'all do it, really. I mean, I know there are a lot of married couples that sell real estate, but I've always felt like if I ever could date anyone, which I try to once every few years, just see if it'll work. But I don't know that dating a realtor would be something I would want to do because then I just feel like I'd never get away from it. But unfortunately, it seems like that's who I end up dating sometimes.
Feeling the business?
But so, yeah, I feel like it is. But no, at the end of the day, it's just so you got to be able to get away from it. So sometimes when I go to on vacation with my family, everybody's saying, well, look, let's go look at these houses or drive around. And I'm like, the last thing in the world, no offense, that I want to do.
That sounds terrible, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to, when I'm on vacation, I don't really care about looking at houses.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just because I see plenty during the workday. But
No, that makes total sense. Although I will say, I don't think I could be married to somebody not in it because, like, they just wouldn't understand.
Well, you know, the perfect spouse for a realtor is someone who's like had a trust fund and they're wealthy and they don't have to work. They can take care of your house and travel whenever you want to travel. They don't have a schedule. Don't have to get off work.
That would be nice. Brandon, why couldn't you be that?
I'm still looking. But you drive around and you think about these things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
It's
think...
true. I mean, we're like trying to find somebody. We want to hire a house cleaner because, like, it's hard to keep up the house, you know? And
it's like sometimes don't you think you need a personal assistant?
yeah.
Oh, well, we all have them to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't... I mean, right now, like, we wouldn't be able to do this if we weren't paying other people to take care of the people who might need us right now.
No,
Yeah.
we did that for the first 7 years of real estate, and I went through a major burnout, you know? And
It's hard. It's hard to do it all.
It is.
It's hard to do it all. I mean... Well, man, there was something that you said that...
Something really
Oh,
smart.
yeah, no, it's like being married.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I could have done this without being married to someone else in the business just because of how much... I mean, did you build your business single or with someone...
Well, you
in your
know,
life?
on and off. You know, I always tell people if I had married everyone I've been in a serious relationship with, I would have been divorced 8 times. So I'm sure I was dating someone at the time. I just don't know. I don't remember who it was. But in different people at different times. And, yeah, I have always had I think I've listen, I get it. My schedule would be tough for anyone. And so really now that's part of my work-life balance is I'm really saying if I do meet someone that I feel like I have a future with, you know, I'm looking for a reason not to work so hard if I meet someone. But right now, if I'm not, I love what I do. So that's, you know, there's no reason to say, oh, I'm going to slow down because I don't have a reason to. Give me a reason to and I'll do it, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I feel like for us, especially as our business has grown, like being married and doing the same thing, there still comes certain challenges. Like you have to figure out where your space is, like your personal space to a degree. It's like I don't know, like finding your personal value, where your talents are, how to express yourself in a way that's still uniquely you. Like we both need that.
Well, sometimes we'll be like, we're forcing a date night. Like we have
That's
to
what
do
I
a
was gonna
date
ask
night.
you. Do
And
y'all
then
take one?
sometimes at the table, we'll be like, we can't talk about real estate, and we'll both sit there and be like, all right, what the heck
Talk
are we
about your
gonna-
nutrition.
What are we going to talk about? Like, I mean, we find things and we have a lot of similar interests, but
Well, let me use
I mean,
that
we
as a way
always
to.
kind of gravitate towards back to real estate.
Okay, so let me use that as a little bit of way to push back on this whole kind of idea about like a work-life balance. Because I'm not so sure that's actually possible, like work-life balance and the two. I think that I think your life is supposed to be more holistic. How about that? And I think that's something that real estate agents might accomplish more than we realize. Like the last podcast that we had with Nolan, that, you know, he came into our life, he needed to buy, or didn't need, but wanted to buy and sell real property. But, you know, our relationship bled into another side of his life. I ended up going skydiving simply because this person came into my life and wanted to share. You know, that's work-life balance to a degree, but where's the line there? Like, you know,
We're suffering with that in our office right now. And I mean, I'm going to be very, you know, I'm transparent and vulnerable. You know, we get really close. And a lot of people say to me, the reason that you have so much trouble with all your support team getting along is you become friends with them. And then it becomes not as professional and we're like a family. But then even my support team says, well, because we spend so much time together, we have to, like Jamie has this thing where she said, should we hire anyone that we wouldn't enjoy being with at our Christmas party? And I'm like, I'm not sure that's the best way to hire people. But again, I share that with her that we all work so much, we want to be able to enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with us. Like we work for the same company and we love each other and get along. And can you imagine if you worked with a group of people that you didn't?
We wouldn't still be there.
No, you wouldn't.
I think it's
probably 90% of the reason we're still there is that I would hate not working with a lot of the people there.
Yeah.
I think until you get to a level where you can just write checks, the people that come into your business that help you take it to it is personal. It is going to be that way. Like certainly you, but you're my spouse. But I mean, I think Chris, Nigel, I think these people who work intimately with us have seen our worst sides in a lot of ways. Like I hate to say that. I wish, and it sort of called me, you know, kind of on the backside of looking back and being like, man, I wish I hadn't represented myself or my beliefs or my values. Or maybe I didn't. I didn't really represent my beliefs. I represented my worst side to the people I'm supposed to lead and care about the most. I don't want that to be, a theme in my reactions. But that doesn't take away the fact that they're still going to. I mean, this business is really intense and tough.
Well, what I just had to be so vulnerable because I hired this guy to come in and organize our office and figure out what's wrong, make recommendations to make the atmosphere healthier and everybody happier, including me, actually. And so we started out with our meeting after he assessed us. And it's like he goes, well, you know, he said, somebody's got to be vulnerable and you're going to have to do it at this meeting. So I said, okay, what do I have to do?
Way.
And so it's almost this exercise where you talk about like the 3 challenges that make you not the best version of yourself. And then the one thing that you think you're a rainmaker with. And so this was what I don't mind sharing it with the world.
I want to go. We should do that right now.
yeah.
I want to hear Melissa's.
So,
I do too, but reiterate it for me. It's the 3 things. What?
3 things that are the most challenging for you to be the best version of yourself in any situation, but especially a stressful one. And what I said for that is I've always had a lot of anxiety. So when things go wrong, it's not that I get mad if I get anxious. It's almost that thing where I'm panicking that somebody's going to get mad at me.
Pressure.
Yeah, or I've done something wrong, or I've disappointed someone, or I'm not perfect. I have a huge abandonment issue, so that comes with that. And I'm like, so that's one thing. The others, just that, I've worked so hard my entire life, and I started to think, I need to have some fun. I need to do something, and I'm so conflicted about that. And then I can't remember my third one, but it wasn't good either. I'm just trying to think. It wasn't good. And so, it wasn't. I'm like, oh my God. And then, but I said, and I guess, at the end of the day, please don't think I'm mad at you or anything. It's just that sometimes I have to be self-protective too, because I feel like my anxiety gets the best of me, and I have a lot of responsibility that if you do run the business, you have a responsibility. Like if I'm responsible for them making a living now too, and that's different. And you just have.
I think that's a big deal.
That's been a big game changer for our business.
To realize that our decisions.
It's motivated us. I mean, honestly, it pulled me out of my burnout.
It really presses on you. If you care about other people, you care about clients, and you care about all these other things, when you realize, oh shoot.
I mean, Chris works in an office that's like near our bedroom, so it's like, oh, Claire, you can't like be depressed and avoid life until 10 a.m. anymore. You got to get out of there because Chris is at work today.
But then when you realize, like, used to, if you're by yourself, you're doing all your own, or maybe just some light, subcontracted people or whatever, it's easy to still make selfish decisions. How about that? But then when you start to, if you do make a bad decision or what turns out to be a bad decision, and you see how it impacts the people who are depending on you to kind of maintain a certain amount of stability in an overall organization or business, it presses on you to grow and become someone new, a better version of yourself.
Usually, like, you take out things on the person that you care, like that you're closest to and you love the most.
You do?
Brandon, you
is that news?
Is that what we do?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, it can fall kind of on the people that you
really
work
understand
with.
that concept.
I know, just like, you just need to know that the person who's closest to you gets the worst treatment.
I may or may not use it as a crutch sometimes. Like, it's because I love you that I'm being,
I think that's part of the value, though, of having a spouse or,
I'm
someone that close as a friend.
Like, to Melissa, her team is like that. And it's like, I'm sure that they get to see her best and her worst side, just like you get the worst of me. And that's
our team still sees our best. Like, people who spend time with us still see your worst sides. Yeah. And then it's like, maybe that's a different subject because I want to stay on the three things that challenge your best
But what I
version.
did tell them is I said, the one thing I can tell you is I've never misrepresented myself. This is who I am. This is who I've always been.
Ain't fake.
I ain't lie to you about who I am.
when things go bad, I get stressed out and I get anxious, and I'm not the best version of myself, and I know that.
Ooh,
and
me
you just
too.
And you just have to say, there's something really freeing about being able to say that.
Yeah.
And then, yes, and they said, well, what is your range? I said, well, I think I can sell a lot of houses.
Yeah. I can help y'all
You
make
know,
a living.
And I thought I was
y'all
good
help
at
me.
relationships till I started managing them.
It's hard.
But I did say that was my third thing. Now I remember, I said, I'm not a manager, never wanted to be one, and it's not a good skill set for me.
Okay, this is an important question for me because this is something I personally struggle with now because I'm in the business, creating revenue as an active agent with you, okay, and maybe a few other agents on our team, but predominantly it's me and you.
Yeah.
But then there's this managerial, role that I feel like I have, and it's tough to be in the business making the money, but also managing the process of how that revenue is actually coming in and then what we do with it and how we use it to make things better for everyone.
Like the systems.
Systems.
Like, what does that even mean? That was what our assessment said. Nobody's managing the systems, and our business has outgrown our infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what that means.
Well, I have a playlist. I'm a weird thinker. I have a playlist on Spotify. It's called Representing Real Estate, which I thought it was funny. That was such a real estate agent way of talking about themselves. I've never misrepresented myself. I didn't misrepresent the property.
No.
I've done my due diligence.
Yeah, wait till you take that continuing ed. It'll scare you to
Well,
death.
I'm done with continuing ed
That whole
this year.
thing,
I finished
man.
it.
I was like, wow. I mean, what aren't we responsible for?
Oh, we're liable for everything we're saying right
But that's
now.
part of our value, and that's why, I'm getting tired of these Snickle Fritz folks be rolling up into people's houses being like, I'll do it for 4.5%, 5%. It's like, stop it.
Snickle Fritz is like the bottom of the chips left over in the bag.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Y'all go ahead and keep inviting these Snickle Fritz agents over to help y'all.
Y'all are getting the bottom crumbs of the bag.
But it's interesting. I didn't know that we're responsible for just Googling something if we think it might be an issue with the house we're listing. I mean, are you serious? I mean, I'm like, okay, so during the class, I Googled something, thank goodness. And then I was in a multiple offer situation. I had to disclose it while I was in that class. Thank gosh, because I thought, wow, I should come to this class earlier.
And they just keep adding more stuff every year. They're like, we're going to make like 3 more pages to the OTP because
one guy,
we're going to make your life
one guy
harder.
in class just lost his mind. He goes, it isn't even worth anymore.
No, I think that's a good thing too. It's like partially there's a regulatory monster.
Agent.
There's a regulatory monster behind all this, and behind the regulatory monster is, in my view, big evil corporate America. It's like, make it so burdensome that people don't want to do it anymore. So therefore, we'll replace the people element, the agent, with something, in my view,
like an iBuyer.
Whatever. It's not good.
Which I don't even know what that is.
North Carolina, in my view, I have a lot of respect for the way North Carolina has structured how the real estate brokerage, how our industry and market's supposed to function. I have a lot of respect for it. I did a lot of soul searching about year 3, 4, 5-ish, somewhere in there. Especially around COVID. I mean, this job is hell on wheels. It is, because you're constantly dealing with, even if you're just a little bit busy and you have just a couple of people under contract.
We're paid problem solvers.
Well, yeah, but you're dealing with you're dealing with a large spectrum or dynamic spectrum of personalities. One transaction has, a buyer, a seller, the buyer agent, the listing agent, the lender, the attorney, the appraiser. There's all these people that start to get in on this conversation and end up being in that solar system of that one deal. And then if you're busy and you have like 10, 15, 20 going at the same time, it's an exponential
And your job
uptick.
is to make it easy
Look like
on your
nothing.
client. Yeah, like your clients are like, oh, that was so smooth
You
and
just
easy.
have to say, don't worry, let me worry.
Yeah,
you don't worry about it.
Let me wear all this.
It's like people say all the time, you seem so calm. You're just a calm and I said, I am, but like inside I'm like tortured all the time, like walking around like, oh my God,
I know.
what's going to do? Like I'm not sleeping thinking, why isn't this house being shown, or what is this going to fall?
Yeah.
And you're just everything that could happen, you worry
wearing
about.
other people's emotions because they're like, hey, I'm stressed, I'm worried, and I'm going to like, how do you block it where you're not, you care about them? How do you not feel that and carry that around with you? You're like, oh, I mean, what am I going to do? I don't want them to feel this way.
Yeah.
Well, that's partially is I don't think that we clarify what we have control over and what we don't. Like, I don't think as agents, as a community, we've clarified where our value and where the expertise is. And I think there's some agents who like that because they're getting business and they're not good at it. They're just
but there's just still too many of us that don't.
In that 10, 15, 20 transactions at a time that you might be working with, there might be a lot of inept professionals involved too. It seems like there's no deal where everyone, it's like, I always get nervous if things are going real well. It's like, the agent I like, everything it came together real well, and the inspection's going well.
True.
I'm waiting for that appraiser to be like, just right on the thing. It's like, why did you pick these comps? Like, these aren't even in there. It's like, well, I'm from Pennsylvania. It's like, what? You don't even live in the state. Like, it's like, I didn't even heard from Greensboro until I got to some. It's like, okay, so this is where the meteor comes into the deal. There's always something to take care of. But have you experience the clients who really understand what they're getting when they choose you? And I feel like a lot of our clients, I mean, respect where respect is due, but I do still think we're good agents in the sense that we've had a lot of reps. We've sold hundreds of houses. When someone who's mature enough to understand where expertise comes from, understands they're dealing with someone that's been through, you probably sold thousands of homes at this point.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
That's a lot of individual experiences, though, where it's like, if there's anyone who is going to know why it's not selling, it's going to be the one who's been in 1,000 different scenarios or several hundred different scenarios where it's like, well, I genuinely think this.
I do think in this market, I've had people really make me feel that way, that they were grateful that I had the experience in so many different things, even though we've had to relearn so much. Yeah. But you can, if you do, a certain number of transactions, you've got more experience, so you know which offers get and which offers don't get accepted. what it takes to get a listing sold. I always say this, and I really believe it. I never understand agents that are either listing agents or buyer's agents. I don't know how you can be successful at listing if you don't know what a buyer.
I want to get that.
I'm serious because
you need to do it all the time because being a good buyer's agent informs how to be you got that experience on the reverse mirror side. Like you're advising your sellers because you're like, I just helped some buyers buy a house just like this like 3 weeks ago. This is what you need to do.
You learn, and you also, when you're listening, you say, okay, well, when I work with a buyer and they see this, they don't like it. So we need to paint it or we need to do something. And I mean, that's the thing is I don't know. It's hard. And I get, I went to a seminar one time in the beginning of my career and the guy said, just buy a 2-door sports car and be a listing agent. You don't have to haul people around. And I'm like, well, that's a thought, but no, I can't do that.
Not getting all the knowledge and experience.
No, and plus, that too, back then, the buyers are better. It's instant gratification.
Look, if you aren't helping buyers, guess what you're not doing? I'm not saying that I want to help a bunch of buyers because there's a lot of work that goes into a buyer. It's listing is a little bit more controlled, but if you're helping a decent number of buyers, what are you doing? You're going and seeing the supply. You're in and out of what's in your local market. You're seeing what other agents are doing. You're picking up on hey, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'll walk into another listing that I think is marketed well. I'm like, I'm going to adopt that. That's good.
I'll grab an extra brochure.
Yeah, I'll grab an extra brochure.
I have a question just to veer us off of
this.
All of that being said, Melissa, do you even have time to watch and keep up with a TV show?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, all right, well, tell us about it.
Well, I always tell people, I have more of a life than people think I do, but
I just can't picture you sitting at home Netflix binging something.
Well, what I do is by the time I get home, it's almost like when I used to wait tables. By the time I got home, you're even if you get home at midnight, you're too keyed up to go to bed.
Yeah.
So you got to do something.
We both waited tables. I think if you haven't done something like that where you serve the public in that way, you're missing out on some lessons.
It's the best way to be. It's a great pre-real estate career, honestly. But no, so I'm watching right now. I'm watching Outlander, but it might be a little too long and intense for me. I like things that are a little mindless. So I like I like time travel, but that's why I wanted to see it. But this time travel is like, oh my God. And then it gets so loud because a lot of it's during the war with cannons and stuff like that. And my dog gets a little upset and I'm like, okay.
You're already in a war all day. It's like, oh my God.
I need something more peaceful.
It is intense. So,
y'all sign a treaty?
I love Ted Lasso. That's what I love.
Yes,
Ted Lasso.
She just finished season 3.
Oh man, that's a great show with a lot of life lessons. Be a goldfish.
There's a ton of wisdom in that show.
I told Brandon after finishing that yesterday that if Ted Lasso came out, they should come out with a book that's the entire script of season 1, 2, and 3 because there's so many amazing quotes.
If they're smart, they'll use the narrative vehicle of what's the reporter?
Oh, Trent Darby.
Trent Darby, whatever.
No.
Trent, whatever.
Trent Krim.
Trent
That's
Krim
it.
from The Independent.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's right.
the book that
I
he's
like
there
Trent.
to write,
Yeah.
Apple should publish that book
I would read it.
Yeah.
But then let people like Tim Cook or whoever put managerial, go and dissect where the lessons in life really are.
Brandon's a businessman.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you the best lesson. Well, 2 of them. Yeah. I mean, the 2 best. Well, there's so many, but the 2 best that I love are the one about be a goldfish because they don't have a memory. Just get over it.
Yep.
that helped me in real estate
Move
too.
on. Be a goldfish.
People will smack you in the face, and if you don't forget you got smacked, you can get hung up.
Yeah, and then the number 2 was in the last one, and when he was with Jamie Tart, and he said, "What about your dad? Why?" Or is the next last one? He goes, "Have you ever thought about forgiving him?" And he said, I'm not going to forgive him. He doesn't deserve that. And Ted Lasso says, do it for yourself. Don't do it for him.
Amen, yeah.
And I mean, that's the truth is that forgiveness aspect. We could do a whole thing on that one.
It's weird you said it because I have that circled right here. I wrote forgiveness down about 15 minutes ago.
And
it's such a huge part of our job.
Oh, with other agents, when things get a little adversarial or even when clients are not as nice to you as you would hope they would be, or even sometimes you got to forgive yourself for not being the best version
people on
of
your
yourself.
team,
And sometimes it's just poopy.
It's
just poopy.
That's what Jamie Todd would say.
But no, I love that show.
I love that show.
Too.
What's your favorite? You just wrote a quote down. I think it's actually quite profound. It's on your desk.
I forgot. It was something about
you said everything I touch.
everything I touch turns to shit. And then it was May, the bartender. She was
But
like,
shit makes things
but shit
grow.
makes things grow. Yeah, that's what it was. I was like, oh, I like that.
Okay, let me advance that. I think that, sometimes in this business especially, I think that it can be really confront you and challenge you, especially if you're trying to level up. Like, it's really difficult. The market's already claimed 2 or 3 times over. I mean, even you know, are constantly crossing paths with other agents you didn't necessarily expect to be involved in a circumstance, because you shake a tree and 5 realtors fall out of it, 2 attorneys, you know, whatever. But where was I going with that? It doesn't matter, because I was thinking about the whole poupée thing and bad things that happen to you, things that are challenging. Ultimately, if you understand that, you know, in the natural world, shit does make things grow. And it can make you grow too if you deal with it the right way. And I remember growing up, like Coach Triner, one of the things, some guy was like, you know, life is 99% not about what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens to you.
That's a Zig Ziglar quote.
It is a Zig Ziglar quote? Okay,
well,
great. Even better.
What's our ninja quote? That's my favorite ninja quote. Is like, and I talked to my nephew about this the other night because he was talking about something that happened to him. And I said, well, you know, things happen to us. We go through a lot, and everything is not going to be good, but you can't let it define you. I said, you can be a victim or a player. Be a player.
The victim or the player
like
thing
that,
in that, I've always liked that.
I try really hard to call myself on.
Yeah,
you're being a victim, Claire.
Sometimes you can. Like, you don't.
Now.
Sometimes you're like, oh, this is awful, and I've had the worst day.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you just got to choose. The other thing I told. Well, let me get back to my Ted Lasso, my other thing, which I think this is a little personal, but I thought it was so great when, you know, she fell in the river in Amsterdam.
Oh, Rebecca,
and then the guy kind of took her, and he was talking about the person who broke up with him.
Yeah.
And he said, I thought that she was doing all this to me. I didn't realize she was doing it for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, isn't that powerful?
It all depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
Yep.
What I like most about the Ted Lasso show from the beginning, like, you can
perspective.
start picking this out of the show from season 1. You don't have to wait to pull this out. I like how the show shows you. Everyone has their own backstory. Like, they do a lot of character work in the show, a lot of really showing you this is the way that this character is in a circumstance, but then we learn why they're that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so then it's like your perspective of them, even though you were being hard on them at first, you're like, yeah, but there's some depth to it.
But I think that's universal. I think even when you meet somebody like, ugh, that person.
Giving people grace.
Well, yeah, because you realize, wait a minute, there's probably a lot about that person that builds in, even with like crappy clients or, you know, agents that you don't understand. It's like they're still that way for a reason, and they don't know that they're that way.
What's the biggest thing? The biggest thing that I always try and remember, and I have a good example of this too, because I've been going to the same guy who does carpet for me and my clients for 25 years, and so I went to his place like a few weeks ago.
You talking about Cooper?
Yeah, Cooper.
Cooper does our
Cooper.
carpet.
Yeah.
He did the hardwoods upstairs.
Don't
We
you
still
love
gotta pay him.
Seton? Do you know Seton, his son? He's working with me.
Yeah, he's in the store with him.
Yeah, Seton's like rocking it. But so I was supposed to go there, and I've gone to that place for like years. And so about a month ago, I was having the worst morning, the worst day. I was supposed to meet him at 9, and I pulled in, and I parked exactly where I've parked for 25 years in that parking lot. And this woman who works there now came in and said, you're going to have to move your car. And you know what I did? I just got in my car and left. And I told her, and that just shows you, because she didn't know I was having the worst morning. And I said, you don't know what someone's going through.
That's something I would do on like a bad day.
But I told Cooper, I said,
screw
Cooper,
it.
I'm not coming in to see you, but it's okay. I just need a minute. I'm not having a good day. But the truth is if you really think about people before you judge them, you have to think, you don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know who they're supporting. You don't know what's just happened.
Yeah.
And I think you can't really judge people or assume that you know everything about anyone.
Yeah.
I agree
even,
with that.
Like, God.
Happened to me at the beach.
If some agents or clients judged me based on who I was in this business, like my first 3 years, I mean, that would suck, because I've come a long way since then.
Same here.
You know?
Same here.
It's
But
like,
if we were all
there's
like
people
goldfish,
that I helped in the beginning that have reached out to me, and I'm like, ooh, now's my chance to show them. Like, I'm way better now, you know?
I agree with that. No, I mean, it's funny that you said I'll just leave. I remember at the beach, we were having that shitty trip. You know, the weather's terrible. You know, there's so many. I felt bad for your dad. Your dad rents this great house, you know. get there, and it's like everything that can make a beach trip bad that's out of your control happens.
Yeah.
We all get sick. I'm still sick, a little bit. Don't worry, I'm not gonna.
I'm a germaphobe. So
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to
I'm not
run.
gonna do
I'm
it.
getting ready to run out of the house.
But I went over, like y'all were in that shop with the little gift shop, and I went and got some ice cream, and then walked over, and as soon as I walked in, the girl's like, "You can't be in here." I was like, "Well, I'll just leave." I might even say leave. I don't know what I said, but I was just like, "Okay." Oh no, I was real cool about it. I was like, I'll just leave. And I did, and it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking she probably wasn't expecting that. She was probably expecting me to be like, "Well, can't I?" Like, no, I mean, I get it. It's your place, your rules, but I was gonna buy something. Now I'm not.
Yeah. I'll take me and my ice cream going next door.
I'll just buy my bullshit gifts from across the street.
It's definitely the kid in you, and it's irrational. When
It is, yeah.
It's irrational.
It's
when
so
you do
arrogant too. Like when I got outside, I was like, "Why? Who do you think you are, Brandon? Like you should have just, either eat. Like that's their rules. That's their store.
There's
But I
a
love
reason it's
Cooper
there.
because he said, "Okay, honey," and then he said about 2 weeks later, he said, "Are you ever going to come in and pick that carpet out?" And I said,
I'm scorned.
Why don't you tell your little hall monitor to deliver it to me?"
Like it was funny that I love him because he knows me
He's
so well.
awesome.
And he's like, yeah. He said, and then he's working Fridays again. I did go last Friday.
Cooper
finally.
works. I feel like he's more dedicated to his phone and staying in touch with people
he
than I
always
can be. I mean,
answers.
I don't. He's on
Yeah.
it, and I admire that. I admire that because I get wore out.
What's our time check?
Oh, listen, I probably need to hit the road
It's
soon. But
4:37.
this is fun. I could do this.
We'll
if
have
y'all ever need someone again, let me know.
We'll have a Melissa Greer part 2.
That's it.
Where me and Brandon, I feel like we're like, let's talk about real estate. We can't help it, but we'll talk about some deeper
Before
stuff.
we end it, we do have Melissa on mic. Give us some advice.
about what life
Yeah,
or real estate or
give her a
whatever you
direction.
want, but just so the audience can have some perspective. Claire and I aren't quite yet a decade into the business. I'm not trying to give age and stuff away, but I think it's worth mentioning and honoring. You've been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah.
Gosh, but when I started doing it, you didn't have to be a grown up, and it's so interesting now that they don't have kids starting anymore. I'm shocked, but yeah, true. It'll be 40 years next March, believe it or not, and I don't believe it because I don't feel like I could do anything that long. But I do think the one thing that you can do in our industry or any industry is play well with others, because I think that's the biggest thing. People ask me all the time, what would you tell a new agent? Get along with your peers, learn from them, never think you know everything. Always be open, because the minute you think you know everything, you're going to do something that's going to really cause you to get sued, or someone's going to get mad at you, or you're...
And that happens.
Yeah, and it happens. And then you just have to really kind of take a step back and stay humble in this profession, because, it's amazing. I've had great years, and then I've had years where I went to hot yoga twice a day and spin class, and still thought, how am I even doing this? During the recession, I carried 35 listings that didn't sell at the same time. Can you imagine? I mean,
Yeah, that'd be scary.
it was pretty unbelievable.
That's 35 people who are calling you every day. They know the market
Why
sucks,
them
but they're still,
household? Why them
they're
household?
still doing that.
And so that's the thing is, I feel like though, I'm a relationship person, even though I don't have one. one day I will. But I do think that you've got to really play well with others. You got to take care of people. You've got to try and work on that best version of yourself. And if you're not showing it, be honest about it and be vulnerable and say, this isn't who I want to be. This is just who I am today. I just had to leave a parking lot because I got mad at this lady. But it's really doesn't make any sense. It's my issue, not yours.
Yeah.
Be willing to say that. And I mean, I
love that.
I think that's the best advice. And I
Very
think
well
it transcends life. I mean, I think
Yep.
it's our job that transcends
Yeah.
life. But I love this. Y'all are great. This is fun. Now this makes me want to go rework mine.
Well, we can
You have to
rework
come
it
on.
together.
Yeah.
We'll have to come
That's
on.
what you'll
We'll
do.
just
Come
keep
on, Mom.
collaborating.
Yeah.
Give
and-
us
yeah.
a little nugget. You know us pretty intimately. Like we've spent
Well,
a lot
let's
of time
not talk
together.
about all our personal
all of our
business.
personal,
Okay.
yeah.
we'll
But
keep some stuff
what would
out.
be your advice to Claire and I where we are in our business?
I think honestly, you guys are at a jumping off point. And I think you just keep doing what you're doing. I told you already, you're on the national numbers right now. It takes so much to do that. And y'all have done it. And I didn't do it when I was 10 years in at all. Man, I barely sometimes have done it in the past 10 years. So I'm just saying, you guys are amazing with your success. And I love the way you keep trying to improve it. So just keep doing that, but also realize you've achieved something that hardly anyone in that office has achieved. So just really be proud of yourselves, but also let that motivate you. The first time I got in the top 10, I remember Gino, the CEO, when he didn't know who I was, but when I came off the stage, he said, I want to see you back here next year. And that didn't leave my head.
That's cool that he said that.
Yeah.
We'll
I
meet
like
him in
that.
person to see him. Hopefully we'll meet him, in August.
Yeah.
I was going to add to that. I told Brandon the other day, like, we were just both talking about how pumped up we are. And I was like, yeah, but Q1 never happened. Like, we're still chasing that high. So, like, let's be hungry for it. Let's keep going after it as if it still hasn't happened yet,
I think competition, like, the last thing I'll say this, I was thinking about this because, it can come across as like, well, all that person wants to do is sell a bunch of houses so they can be number one or two, or you like have that. Well, the market should be grateful that there is competition amongst agents because competition, I believe this, competition breeds excellence.
Yeah.
And when I'm not saying like that you should be unethical when you're competing, but when you see someone who that you should be tit for tat with or better, or you think you're better than, like really, like legitimately you offer better service than and they're doing better than you, that's a nice kick in the butt to be like, well, what are you missing that they aren't?
Yeah.
They're connecting with the market.
What are they doing that you're not?
Yeah, like don't be that turd that's like negative, like what you said, like that's my problem. I need to figure out why.
Use it to work on you and better you and your team.
Exactly.
Because
so
people are depending on us. It's not just me and you anymore.
If you take the best of say you got 10 top agents, they're all going to do it differently. And you take the best of what they all do and try and figure out how to incorporate that somehow. I mean, that's the whole key is, anytime I go to a convention, I learn something. Anytime I do something, I try and learn something. I mean, you just have to really change up what you're doing. I mean, the last thing in the world I want to do is videos. You know that. I hate doing videos. And I mean, I do them.
It is
like,
hard, y'all.
I do them, but it's like
a lot of pressure.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. When did we start doing this? I said when I started selling real estate, I didn't even.
We have to
a
be
cell phone.
celebrities now.
I mean, they didn't have car phones.
It's
They had
no
car
joke.
phones.
yeah, they had a car phone.
Or even before they didn't. They didn't have
Car
voice
we
phones.
didn't even have DocuSign. Well, we didn't really when we started. We had just a little bit of flavor of getting stuff signed and running it to it, but then like 6 months later, we were DocuSigning.
No, my street. I found my house because there was an agent that lived on my street I live now, and I discovered it taking her offers in person and putting them in her mailbox. So, I mean, our industry's changed a lot. But
That's crazy.
Do I have to go? This is how we end my podcast. I always say, Melissa's got to go.
Melissa's got to go.
Thanks for tuning in. We will see
Thanks
you
for having
next
me.
week.
This is fun.
Yeah, it was
All
great
right,
having
booze.
you.
We'll see. Is that far away?